Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Governance Code, Chapter 551. We'll start by saying our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Everyone may be seated. Okay. We'll start our meeting by doing our roll call. Ms. V. Gomez.
Here.
Ms. Cruz Perez.
Here.
Mr. Sean Glovier.
Here.
Ms. Maria Douglas.
Here.
Ms. Felicia Moody.
Here.
Mr. Esteban Serta.
Here.
And Darrell Owens is here. That means we have a full board that is present with us today. We'll then move to section 3 of our agenda, which is the public comments on agenda items. Sir, see if we have any speakers on agenda items. We do. Okay, great. So we will call the, pass that down. Thank you very much. So I'll call the speakers on agenda items down, and at that time, you will have 5 minutes to speak. And don't get frustrated if you don't see us responding to you, because we're not allowed to. At the 4-minute mark, Mr. Sir will let you know that you have 1 minute left, and then he'll let you know when your time is up. Okay? All right. So first person will be Ms. Kathy Crisp.
Chris.
My name is Kathy Crisp. My son started in Kennedale in 2004. They graduated 2019. I'm here to discuss or just comment on renaming the PAC to Errol K. Oaktai Performing Arts Center. And I wanted to tell you just the impact that Mr. Oaktai has had on our family. My sons are autistic. Those that know me know that I have always said they can do anything, and we taught them that they can do anything. Errol Oaktai taught us they could do more than anything. They signed up for band when they were in 5th grade, and that's when we met Mr. Oaktai just at the instrument picking at Arthur. My Jimmy could not blow out his birthday candles that year on his birthday cake, and he chose to play the trumpet. I expressed some concern about that to Mr. Oaktai, and he said he'll be fine. And he was. He ended up being in the front ensemble, keyboard and synthesizer player for the whole 4 years. My son Tommy was told when he was in 8th grade that he was going to have to try out for the marching band. He played euphonium, which is quite big and heavy. Both of my sons STEM. They still STEM. They're 22 years old. Do this. Mr. Oaktai was concerned that they wouldn't be able to stand still on the field, and he said if they're not able to, then they're not going to make the marching band because we're 5th in state and we're not going down, is what he told me. My Tommy was offered a keyboard position, and he said, no, I'm going to march, and if I don't make it, I'll try again next year. Mr. Oaktai taught him that. I pushed the keyboard because I wanted him to be out there on the field for sure. Well, he was out there on the field for sure, all 4 years. Errol Oaktai has made a huge impact on our family, and he has taught all of us, not just our sons, a lot. We have lifelong friends with band parents, and we're lifelong friends with Errol and Sherry Oaktai. I would love to see his name on that building so that people ask who's that later on when the ones that know him now are gone. And I'd love to tell them who that is. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chris. Next, we have Guy Huggins.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Board. My name is Guy Huggins. I'm a Kennedale resident now for 24 years. The 24 years I've lived in the city of Kennedale, the best 7 years that I've participated in this community for the 7 years that I was a band dad under the stewardship and the friendship of Errol Otai. All 3 of our children are proud Kennedale graduates, and we had kids in the band program from 2010 to 2017. Julie and I, my bride over there, were extremely involved in the marching band. She was band booster president for quite a while. I was the halftime voice of the Wildcat Marching Band. I did all the announcements for about 5 or 6 years or so. We did all the practices, all the games, went to all the things out of town. So I'm here to tell you, after about 7 years, I made quite a lot of observations about our OTI. And I would be very proud if this board were to rename the Performing Arts Center after him. One of the first observations that I made over the years was the amount of time that Errol committed to the program. It's not like he would show up at 8 o'clock in the morning and teach his classes and go home and grade the papers. That man was up here earlier than everybody, all day teaching, and then he'd come out here on this field or in that parking lot, and he would run those kids and drill those kids for hours and hours and hours. One more time, one more time, one more time. He did that, I don't know how many years Errol was the band director. It had to be 20 or something, or close to 20. If I was here, watched 7 of it, and I know he was here before me and he was here 5 after. But just think about the games, the Friday nights, the Saturday competitions. And if they were blessed enough to have made like the area, the region, the state, those were weekends that he was taking up here every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, load them all up, do the date, not even get back till midnight, and then he was back here the next day. And he did this year after year after year after year, and I only watched it for the 7. I was also struck by my observation of what had to be a vocational commitment. Normal, sane people don't put this kind of effort into a job. They don't. I love my job, but I don't spend weekends and nights for 20 years doing it. So Errol obviously had to have a vocational sense of let's call it a calling, right? He obviously really loved to work with these kids. It had to mean a hell of a lot to him because he did it consistently for so long. And I would watch him interact with the kids, like Tommy, Jimmy, Chris, that Cassie just talked to you about. My kids, all the kids. He was such a observational mentor, not just to the kids, but to the other band directors. And I was very impressed with that sense of stewardship that he brought to his vocation. And the third thing that struck me was all of this had to be done with a pretty high degree of sacrifice. He was married, he had 2 children of his own. And the kind of time he put into this school, into our kids, and this band program over all that time, he had to take it from somewhere. And that's a real sacrifice. I'm confident, or I'm pretty sure that there were probably times where Sherry and the boys were like, "Daddy, you're gonna go do that again? You're gonna go do that again?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm gonna go do that again." Because it meant something to him, it was special to him. Otherwise, he would not have done it. I'm sure you guys know Errol, and for those of you that haven't met him, you should. And all of those observations, a lot of that time, yeah, a lot of them were made here on our field, or the fields that we would take all around the state, or in our district when we did go to the games, but also in that Performing Arts Center. I don't think you could walk into that place and not feel his presence, maybe
4 minutes.
or maybe even smell it, because he was in it so much. He'd spent some of his time there. And I would always even know he was there with that green truck. Because Julie and I, we'd be driving to church on Sundays, or just driving down the street, and we'd be heading up Wildcat Way, and I'd look over my left shoulder, and sure enough, there's Errol's green pickup truck. For 7 years, after school, before school, and on the weekends. So I would just petition you to please consider renaming the Performance Arts Center after Errol Otai. I think it would be a hell of an honor to our community, to us band parents, to our children. And I know I, for one, would love to be driving down there one day and look up and see his name, and it would help me remember the special times with like the best 7 years that I've had in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huggins. Okay, I've got a name on here, Miss Berry, Ebony Berry? Okay, now Ebony, I think your comments are for the non-agenda items, am I right?
I'm not
Okay, I think it is. So what I'll do, I'm gonna go ahead and, when we switch over to the non-agenda items, I'll bring you up first, okay? All right, okay. So, Mr. Serta, do we have any names for the
We
agenda
do,
items?
yes.
Non-agenda items?
Non-agenda items, yes, we do. Okay, so we'll now switch over to the non-agenda items, and I will now start with Ms. Ebony Berry.
Same time limits, right?
Yes, so we'll still have the same time limit, so you'll have 5 minutes to speak, and at the 4-minute mark, Mr. Serta will go ahead and let you know that you have 1 minute remaining. Okay?
All right. Good evening. My name is Ebony Berry, and I come here along with other Aristocat drill team parents and line members to support Coach Chris in presenting a plan for our KHS drill team to attend a rare opportunity for taking master dance classes in New York, which for some of our graduating seniors will be an excellent path into seeking professional dance for their future goals. With the news that the band was approved for their trip to Florida, we, the girls and parents, took proactive steps to begin raising money for the high chance that our trip will also be approved. I stand here now with disappointment after receiving the news that Coach Chris was directed to shut down our trip and not attend the board meeting. We as parents, while not aware of who originated this directive, are highly disturbed by this. Rather than professionally communicating the areas of concern and possibly offering or allowing for solutions, it was shut down in an inconsiderate and ugly way. This decision shows no regard to the feelings of our teenagers who have been working hard to raise the funds so that there is absolutely no financial burden on the school, not to mention the disregard of the community members who have donated to support this team. The drill team is often mistreated and not held to the same esteem as other sports. And as we are making strong strides to rebrand, it is time for that to end. We ask that the school board consider our petition for the team to have this career-changing and resume-worthy opportunity. We request that we be given a list of tasks that will keep us in compliance for making this trip a reality, and that we as stakeholders work together for solutions rather than ripping the chance away from our Kennedale students. Please reconsider. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Ms. Berry, for your comments. The next name we have on the non-agenda comment list is Daniel Bennett.
Superintendent Gee, President Owen, some of you know me, I've seen you before. I always come down here and talk about the appraisal district. And once again, I'm here to talk about the appraisal district. For those who may not know, it's been in the news lately that the Commissioners Court on Tuesday took a no confidence vote on the chief appraiser. And the reason they did so is because of an audio that was put out there where the head of the IT department was distancing the truth away from the media, creating a narrative, thus basically lying to the public. When you lie to the media, you lie to the public. So they took this decisive action, and even some of them were calling for his resignation or his dismissal from the board of directors. Now, there's a meeting on September 14th. I don't know what they're going to do, but we don't care what they do. They have proven themselves to support this type of culture. Tad, I've been down here trying to demonstrate to you this culture exists. Now's the audio tape. This demonstrating all the time that I've been down here. So that's happening. You may or may not want to join and take a no confidence vote in the chief appraiser. The mayors of Southlake, Colleyville, and Keller are beseeching other taxing entities to put this on their agenda for discussion and take that vote. Now I want to get into what's happening now. This is the odd year, so the vote for the district directors is this year. Now the way it works, and some of you know, some of you may not know, is that they get nominations from the taxing entities. The nominees go to the chief appraiser by October 15th. He assembles a ballot, sends it back to you with your allocated number of votes that is assigned to you, and then you cast those votes for who you like to see represent you on the TAD board of directors. Well, this is very special because if there's a need to remove the chief appraiser and choose another chief appraiser, that's a monumental responsibility. So we want to put the best people qualified who understand the property tax code and understands the operations of the appraisal district. And I have always asked, the last 2-3 years, which you have, last 2 or 3 cycles, you have supported Mr. Gary Lasada. He sat on the ARB board as a panel chair, and he also tested the software for the district, told him it didn't work, but they wouldn't lie to me. Now, the nomination period is right now as we speak. And you're not gonna get a letter from the appraisal district probably until the 27th of September. So it's not gonna make your next month's agenda. So your opportunity to nominate is gonna evaporate right before you. You do not need permission from the chief appraiser or a letter to nominate. You nominate by resolution. So you find somebody you like to nominate, you put it on your agenda next month, and nominate that person. And then you send your nomination along with a resume to the district, and then they get put on the ballot. Many districts, many taxing entities never get that opportunity because of the way the tax code is written. He is not directed to ask you for nominations. All he has to do on October 1st is tell you how many votes you have. So many taxing entities end up not getting the chance to nominate. We don't need permission from the district to do this. It needs change in the state law, but we don't have to wait on Austin to tell us anything. So there are gonna be people who are gonna be nominating in September, not knowing how many votes they have to cast, because it's not necessary. A nomination is just saying, I wanna see this person represent Kennedale ISD. That's it. So I hope you'll take what I say in consideration if you'd like to do the no confidence vote, and go ahead and nominate somebody to
1 minute
represent
left.
your taxpayers. And I'd be more than happy to help you through that process. That's what I've been doing every time I come down here. I want to be able to inform and be proactive and helpful. And I think some of you have my number, it's on the sheet, and I hope you'll consider Mr. Lasada. And I hope we get a board that will choose a chief appraiser that will represent the taxpayers and the taxing entities in the manner in which you deserve. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. And we have one name listed, one last name listed, that would be Mr. Jeff Navarez.
Thank you, Mr. Owens, Mr. G, and trustees. My name is Jeff Navarez, 1009 Estates Drive. And I come here not as a city leader, but as a concerned parent. And I just wanted to speak about my experience this year with the bus system. I understand that there was other issues, but I just wanted to share what we went through in hopes that you are enlightened about what happened. Usually every year, we see them at the open houses like the Delaney or the high school. I did not see them either this year to go ask them questions. We did have a new student this year in our family, and my youngest is in kindergarten going to Arthur, so we understood that there was something that could be different this year. Usually the bus drivers call us and tell us, hey, your bus route is bus number 16 and it's at this time. We didn't get a phone call this year. On Monday, the day before school, we're calling, and I don't know if you've ever called the bus depot, but there's 2 times in the day that you can get a hold of them if you're lucky. We did manage to get a hold of them by the afternoon, and we were told our 2 oldest buses and what their route's gonna be, but they did have no record of our youngest and have no idea how we can get them on the bus. Not a big deal on the first day of school. Of course, we're gonna go up there and walk our kindergartner in the first day of school, but we had no way, no idea how she was gonna get home that day until that afternoon, after calling all day between Arthur, myself, and my wife. My wife finally got a hold of them and got a bus number to get it to Arthur to make sure my daughter got on the correct bus that day. Since then, it's been a whirlwind. There've been various times which we understand they're working out routes, they come different ways, we understand that, but I feel like the staff has not had the tools to deal with this year, and that's kind of trickled down from leadership, and it's kind of spilling over to us. So I've gotten a couple attitudes from bus drivers, for example. One, I was told I must go across the street and not stand in my yard in 108-degree heat, waiting for the bus to show up for my kindergarten to come off. So I did comply. So some days it's 3:45, some days it's 3:35, which is around where it's supposed to be. So you can imagine if I'm guessing how hot I am or how late I've been sometimes. One particular day that was the final straw for me was last Wednesday. I came up here to pick up my junior from early dismissal, which is 3:30. Every one of you guys know where I live. I got home by 3:31 following the bus in, which was about 5 minutes early that day. Pulled my driveway, got out, ran over, walked my daughter in. By the time I got to my backyard, my wife's calling me and saying the depot's calling her yelling at her that I wasn't outside and I must be outside. I was right behind that bus. Since then, I took account of what days they showed up. The next 2 days, we didn't have our bus drivers, so they showed up at 3:45. I was out there at 3:30, and it was 108. This week, we've had 3:35, 3:36. We had one day where she was late because something happened with the drop before, which is understandable. When I called the depot saying, hey, I don't appreciate you guys calling my wife and complaining like that, I did talk to somebody who was very nice, and she made the point, like, we're all figuring it out, we just need you guys understanding. I told her, that's my point, we need you guys to be understanding about us, we're trying to figure it out as well. What I'm asking you guys to do is like look into this, do an investigation, see what went wrong this year, how we can fix it for next year. Do they need more tools or more information from us? Look at their procedures and how they deal with parents, how they set up the bus routes in the first place, and how they tell all of us how this is going to happen. And one little special request, I would like the choice to allow my daughter to get off the bus herself, just so we won't have this issue. I understand she's kindergarten, but when I was in kindergarten, I lived in Stuttgart, Germany. I walked a mile, yes, up a steep hill in the snow to get to school.
Barefoot.
And I think my daughter can walk 30 feet to my front door and come inside. So that's one thing I also want you to consider. If you have any more questions, you guys know how to get a hold of me, and I appreciate your time in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Navarez, for your comments. Thank everyone who took the time to come out and make the comments. Thank you very much. Okay, we will now move to section 5, which is our special district recognitions. And I'll turn it over to Mr. G.
And I believe we'll turn that over to Mr. Cagle and the Wildcat Success Center graduation.
All right, this is a special moment. We've kind of waited all summer for this, by the way, board. We have our ceremonial May graduation at UTA this year, where we had about 200 graduates. And every year we have some graduates. Sometimes it takes them a little longer. That's okay. I tell them it took me a little bit longer than 4 years to get my undergraduate degree, and it's okay. The goal is to get that done. This summer we did have, we've got some special programs, and there are several board members that are on here that helped us, and Mr. G, when he proposed the Wildcat Success Center, we opened the Wildcat Success Center. And right now, just by the way, about annually, it's helping us get about 15 to 20 kids on an average year, which we fell in that range again this year, of students graduated that otherwise would have not. So it's really paid off. By the way, 15 to 20 kids in a school district our size is a 6 to 8 point swing in graduation. Since we've opened that, we've held graduation rates, I think, every year above 95%. In most years, last year was kind of a little bit lower than what we've had. We've had as high as 97.1%, I believe. So you look on a nearby district's website, it's been 94. And they're a very good district. So we hold that, and I want to tell you thank you for the Wildcat Success Center. We have other programs. We have a credit recovery program called Fresh Start, and then we have our summer program. So in all of those 3 programs last year in these post-COVID years helped us graduate 40 seniors, okay? And I said about 16 of those were from the Success Center, and then we had 3 finish in our summer programs this year. And so all that information I presented in our campus needs assessment in June at the federal consultation meeting. But without further ado, out of those 3 graduates, I told them that I would come to the August board meeting and we would have a celebration ceremony, a graduation ceremony for them, because it's important. I wanted their parents to see them in their cap and gown. I had one that said, no way, Mr. Cagle, I'm not coming. I had another one today that was supposed to be here. He got kind of nervous. This was a little much, and so he didn't attend. I do want to recognize that one. His name is Garrett Brock, and I'm going to recognize him anyways. We had planned to recognize him. I said I was going to recognize him tonight. And then we do have one that came tonight for our August 2023 graduation. People of audience, I'm going to ask at this time, will you please stand and welcome our final member of the class of 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, Ren Holland. I'm going to take over for Mr. G at our graduation ceremony. He typically does something called the turning of the tassels. You are now a Kennedale High School Wildcat graduate. This time, will you please turn your tassel from right to left? Ladies and gentlemen, we are proud of Ren Holland. I do want to thank her parents tonight, Angie and her grandparent and Grandpa Wallace Holland. And I know that I've gotten to know Wallace quite well over the last couple of years. And so, Janie, we're proud of you. And Ren, we're proud of you. Board, would y'all like to take a picture with our graduate? Thank you.
Jumped out at me. I don't want that chair to jump out at me again.
So I'm gonna try to push it in next time.
All right, that was awesome. We're now going to move to section 5B, to the Paul Awards, and there again, we go back to Mr. G.
All right, so we have several for the first month of school. We're saying the first month of school, the back almost a month now, so, with our staff. So at Kennedale High School, we have Carol George, Matt Munson, Kim Hunt, Chef Bowles, Candy Allstott, Shelley Bajewski, Dee Dee Grimes, Dr. Jock Robinson, Jessica Harris, and Melissa Springfield has two. At Patterson Elementary, we have Darcy Loganes, Christy Morrell, Henry Moore, Krista Reeves. Kennedale Junior High School, we have Toby Stone, Roger Relaford, Emma Powell, Johnny Walker, Melinda Bowles, Angela Bruce, Jennifer Hamilton, Amber England, Jamie Sprinkle, Kelly Seinkrat, Myra Tovar, Charity Simmons, Lindsay Hammonds, Katie Greenwood, Julio Ortega, Victor Rodriguez, Marcus Ross, Christy Dunn, Mimi Bumpus, Toby Stone, and Chris Farmer. At Central Administration, hang on, I gotta move my screen here. At Central Administration, we have Jimmy Adams, Ashley Slotsky, Jeremy Schneider, Terry Shue, Jordan Dunlop, Rhonda Ladive has two, Claude Rhodes, Lisa Walsh, Delaney Elementary, Kim Jones, Aubrey Wooden, Jenny Limer, Melissa Garrick, Kim Jones, Ashley Arbor, Darren Lumen, Jessica Hopkins, Marielle Troshi, Brooke Rhodes has two, and Janet Fareed. And at the, already read junior high school, and facilities and maintenance has Margarita Guzman. So that is our Paul Awards for the month of August. So, sorry. Not to my knowledge. Somebody. Which campus? What campus?
Junior high.
What?
Junior high. Junior high.
Is there anything from the junior high school, Ms. Bruce?
It's cold, you can keep it on. It's cold down here too.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me recognize the junior high to you tonight. We have an outstanding band program from 6th through 12th. And my junior high band, honors band, did something outstanding this year. I will never be able to explain the complexity of how wonderful what they did was. So Miss Lockwood will bring that great information to you, but this is prestigious for what they did.
Hello. So in the spring, every junior high band from 1A to 4A is in the same region called ATSSB, the Association of Texas Small School Bands. And you can enter a piece from your UIL program to be judged by a panel to go to a region level, an area level, and then a state level. So our band won the region level in 2 pieces, advanced to the area level, won that level, went to the state level, and we not only had 1 piece, because each piece is graded individually, but we had 2 pieces make the top 10 in the state of Texas. That no other junior high band in the state of Texas made that list twice. So there's a list for a concert piece and a list for a march, and we made both lists. So that's a really big deal, because there's hundreds of junior high bands that they were competing with, and some of the top schools in the state, and we beat them. So we are very proud of them and just how much of an accomplishment that is. We have over 300 band kids at the junior high right now, and it's a big deal for us that they're in so many things. They're in athletics, they're in theater, and they're doing things in excellence. So I wanted to brag on them.
Many of them were invited, but surprise, surprise, they're at athletic events tonight and have other things. So we did invite a handful of them to come to be recognized, but they are tied up elsewhere. Thank you for letting me recognize the wonderful band.
Great job.
Awesome to the junior high. Okay. All right, so next is our consent agenda, and I think Ms. Moody would like to get a clarification before we vote on the consent agenda.
Yes, we had a correction from one of our meetings, so I am making a motion to approve all items under the consent agenda with the revised minutes from our July 31st meeting.
Okay, so we already have those minutes revised in our board books.
Yes.
So we'll be voting on the consent agenda with the revised board minutes.
I'll second that motion.
I didn't make the motion, so.
Oh, I
I'm sorry,
did.
you did?
You did.
Okay, so that motion was made by Ms. Moody and second by Ms. Douglas. All in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion passes unanimously. Okay, so we now move to section 6 of our agenda items. That's 7? Okay, my fault. We now move to section 7. Okay, so that's the Student Achievement Award, Student Achievement Annual Report. And who's doing that, Mr. G?
Dr. Book.
It is Dr. Blue.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am here tonight to present, as required in statute, our annual update of our student achievement. So tonight I'm going to focus on, I'm going to share our STAR scores in 3rd grade as well as our EOC scores. We're going to I'm going to present our HB3 goals, and then we're going to talk just briefly about our next steps. And so just like last year, today is the day that we present the data, and our action plans will come in 2024 when our campus principals present the campus improvement plans and I present the district improvement plan. So this is the state assessment results from spring 2023, so last spring. So the first place I want to begin is I want you to see that overall, we did about the same in terms of performance as our students performed last year. So there was a small decline in masters, which we will discuss, but overall, it was about the same in terms of the performance levels. We saw very little change. And just to clarify, approaches means they passed the test, and meets means, according to the state of Texas, they meet grade level expectations. So Some of you may wonder about the high focus groups because that is new for this year. Our new accountability system that has been released and will receive the scores in September there's an increased emphasis on student growth in the new accountability system as well as student groups. So we have all students, then they choose our lowest performing racial ethnic groups, and that's specific to Kennedale, so it's different in every district. And then we have our high focus super group. So you'll see there, and one thing that I think you may find interesting is part of the new accountability system creates this super group because in previous years when they would do A through F, if you looked at districts who did not have a diverse population, for example, if they had less than 25 students who came from economically disadvantaged families, then they by default would get 100. And so last year I was going through different campuses and I said, oh wow, they got a 98. I would love to see how that goes, looking at different campuses in other districts. And I realized that in the closing the gaps piece, because each subgroup was counted separately, if there were less than 25, then that didn't count for that particular district. So this is an attempt by the state to ensure more equity across the accountability system. So Highly Mobile is a new group that you'll see, and it's homeless foster care migrant students as well. So one thing that I want to share with you today is that overall our students performed at about the same performance level as they did last year. Last year when I stood up and I presented these numbers, what we saw was a strong showing from our elementary campuses, and we saw lots of opportunities at our secondary campuses. So this year, we came up with very focused plans. We targeted a lot of our resources, our staff members at our secondary campus, and so what you'll see is that our secondary campuses across the board, they grew quite a bit, but we saw more struggles at our elementary campuses. And so what we're doing, we know what works, and we see evidence of that in our data this year, but it's going to be important as we move forward that those strategies are implemented across the board with fidelity and consistency. So this is looking at math across the board, very similar to the overall scores. We didn't see very much of a drop or difference from last year. And again, the columns in the middle, what you'll see with the numbers that are not black is if it's blue, it's about the same. It's within 1 percentage point. If it's red, it means we dropped in that area, and if it's green, it means we grew in that area. So we did see a very small decrease in our English learners at the pass rate, but we saw a significant increase in meets and masters for our English learners, which is significant because we've devoted a lot of time, energy, and resources with that particular group to serve those students and their unique needs. So broken down by grade level, what you can see on the far right is spring 2022. So that's last year. And then when you go over to the left, you can see this year. So this is math, grade 3. And overall, it's the same. We saw very little change in performance from last year to this year in 3 through 5, but KISD dropped from last year in those grades. So what's hard to look at here is we see an increase at the state level, but we see overall at the district level, we see a decrease. So we know that that's going to be an area of focus for us. So we see grade 4 and grade 5. So again, the state's at the bottom, and then you see KISD right in the middle. And we did separate it by campuses because you've asked for that before, but my presentation tonight is focusing on the district performance overall. So one thing that I will touch on at the very end of this presentation is that we are provided targeted support at the elementary levels in math and DLA. So grade 6. We did see a dip at the junior high in grade 6 in approaches and meets. But this is the place where we have to celebrate. So not only did we see double-digit increases in grade 7 math, but in 2022, overall, we were performing below the state passing rate, and now we are above the state passing rate. So this is an example of, we know what works. We know that administrators being in classrooms is helpful. We know that providing feedback is helpful. We had Laura Wells at the time. She was our federal programs coordinator. She was in the classrooms. She was providing coaching support. She was working with a representative that we received through a grant with TEA to go in and provide PLC support and lesson planning, and we saw double-digit increases. And so those are the same strategies that we want to implement at the elementary level this year. So one thing that I didn't point out but I wanted to say is grade 8 we saw a double-digit increase in meets, and the KISD passing grade is above the state as well. So in 7th and 8th grade, strong showing. In Algebra 1, we improved in passing rates by 3 points at KJH and by 2 points at the high school. 10-point increase in meets at the junior high. Although all of the district performance levels are below the state, we are seeing some growth there. So this is the district compared to the region compared to the state. So you can see in grades 7 and 8, we were above the state and the region. And that's to be celebrated, because last year when I stood up in front of you, that was not the case. They worked hard. So this is a cohort comparison, so you can kind of compare apples to apples. So you'll see last year's 3rd graders and how they performed as 4th graders. So overall in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, we did see decrease in grade 4. We saw a decrease in grade 5 at the district level. We did see an increase in grade 6. So the 6th grade cohort, they increased the passing rate by 6 points, while the state and the region decreased slightly. So I think that's an important point to keep in mind. So RLA overall, we saw no change, very little change from last year to this year. Small dip in meets and masters. So last year to this year. So one thing that we looked at very closely is that all of our elementary grade levels in RLA are significantly below the state. So when we move to 6th grade, again, it's last year compared to this year. So grades 6 through 8, all of the grade levels were above the state in the passing rates. Grade 7 was above the state in meets. Grade 8 was above the state in masters. And in grades 7 and 8, we saw an increase while there was a decrease at the state level. So that's significant as well. The junior high staff, they worked hard. The junior high administrators, they worked hard this year, or last year, and it's evident in this particular data set. So in English 1 and English 2, we saw increases across the board in English 1, and in English 2, we saw increases in approaches and meets. And we did widen the gap between the state and the district from last year, and increased 5 points in masters from last year to this year. So again, this is RLA, so reading and writing, and in grades 6, 7, 8, and English 2, we were performing above the state. So in terms of cohorts, so this is grade 4 through 6. So the 6th grade cohort was 2 points above the state this year, and it was below the state last year, so that's a significant piece. The 7th grade cohort saw increases in approaches and meets. The 7th grade cohort remains above the state in approaches and meets performance levels as well. And the 8th grade cohort saw an increase in all 3 performance levels. They were below the state last year, but above the state in both approaches and masters this year. So in social studies, again, this is a high-level overview. In reading and math, there are multiple tests beginning in 3rd grade and going all the way up. In social studies, it's important to remember this is only 2 tests. So they take the social studies test in 8th grade and in U.S. history, and that is all. So in terms of overall, you're going to see less fluctuation between the grade levels as you did in math and reading. So overall, we saw improvement in approaches and meets from last year. And we saw double-digit increase in economically disadvantaged English learners and special ed. So grade 8 is below the state by 5 points, but we saw a larger than state increase in approaches and meets, so we are working to close the gap there. KHS aligned with the state. It's 1 point lower both last year and this year, but it remains below the state in meets and masters. And so you can see, so blue is about the same. So in U.S. history, we're performing at about the level of the state average. So in science, all right. So in science, again, this is 5th grade, 8th grade, and biology. So we did see across the board, we saw for all students, we saw a decrease there. So 5th grade and 8th grade are above the state in passing rates. And we saw a larger increase in above the state in 8th grade master's level, which is our advanced learners, and so that's a significant piece to consider. And so about the same, but the performance levels were approximately the same in grade 8 in biology, and we were above the state in grade 5. So these are our TELPAS scores. We saw a small drop at both the state level and the local level. Some things that are important to consider when reviewing these scores is that historically, up until this year, the writing was graded by the teacher. So 2023 is the first year that the students had to complete the writing prompts online. That made a difference. Another important thing to consider is that our emergent bilingual students, they have to start typing on a state test in 2nd grade, whereas our native English speakers don't have to take an online test until 3rd grade. And so that's something else to think about. And so one thing that we've done at the district level is we've added keyboarding without tiers beginning in 1st grade to help eliminate the barriers related to keyboarding. So this is our map growth, which was presented in May, and as compared to our STAR results. This surprised me because they changed the test, so I was not expecting a strong correlation. But we did see, so we have grade 3, grade 4. So if you can see, the dark green is map, and then the lighter green is STAR, and then you have, so you have grade 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, and you can see it's strong. In most cases, the STAR performance was higher than the map growth projections, and that hasn't been the case in previous years. And so one thing I want to just highlight is that this year I met with the principals right after the middle of the year administration, and the principals shared their action plans and the things that they were putting in place from the middle of the year to the end of the year. And those action plans were very successful overall compared to the projections from middle of the year to end of year. So this is it's a mechanics and grammar essentially. It's a strong correlation. I mean, anything within 5% is considered very precise, and so in some cases we're seeing exact estimates. And so that tells us we have a nice progress monitoring tool because it has been very consistent. So So I want to share something with you, and it's important. I say this a lot, but I want to highlight that correlation is not causation. So it's hot outside and your ice cream melts. It's hot outside and you get a sunburn, but if your ice cream melts, you don't necessarily get a sunburn. So that's an important idea to remember. This is a snippet from our dashboard that I shared with you last year regarding our power walks. And so what you can see on the far left in the bottom box is grades kindergarten 1st through 5th. So the 5th grade is yellow. And then you can see beginning with 6th grade is the light green all the way over. So we saw a significant correlation by the number of walkthroughs, power walks that our administrators completed. We saw a correlation between that and our assessment results, which is interesting. So this is by appraiser. Again, you can see the grade level numbers at the bottom, and then you can see up through 6th grade. So you can see the junior high collectively had more walkthroughs overall, and last year we were lowest performing campus overall, and this year overall highest performing campus in terms of growth. So I think that's significant, and that's something that we're going to talk about and focus on this year. This is the part of the presentation where I typically present our accountability ratings, but because of the change in the A through F system, we're not going to get those until mid-September. So my hope is, depending on the date, I'll have them and I'll be able to present them at the September meeting. We do have some celebrations. I know that when I looked at our scores for the first time and I told Mr. G, I said, I have a knot in my stomach. This hurt. This is painful. This is really hard. Our staff worked so hard. Our principals worked so hard. It was difficult to look at. So I do want to point out some highlights that goes back to what I said at the beginning, is that the strategies that we put in place in the places where we devoted the time, energy, and resources, we saw great improvement. So we know what works. It's just about implementing it consistently across all the grade levels and all the campuses. So I introduced HB 4545 in the fall of 2022. We talked about the additional requirements for accelerated instruction. We discussed this last year, so just to recap, this is math. So in 2021, in general, as long as I have been in this profession, so the last 20 years or so, whenever a student is taking the test the next year, 15% passing after failing the previous year is considered remarkable. It's a very high number. And so in 2021, this is before we put accelerated instruction in place, it was about 10%. After 1 year of accelerated instruction, we have 44%. So we saw a huge jump in math, and we saw similar increases in reading. So we as a district are doing a good job with our students who did not pass the year before, working with them all year, and then them taking it again and then passing the next year. So it's a little bit of a different format, but this is reading and math. You can see that 4th grade, 5th grade, 6 through 8, and then you can see our high school courses. 71% of our students who failed math in 7th grade passed math in 8th grade. That is very significant. I've never seen numbers like that before. So our staff, our teachers, our principals are doing a really great job with that accelerated learning, with the intervention piece. The strategic scheduling that they put in place is making a difference, and it's making a positive impact. So even though we saw that huge leap from 21 to 22, we saw another increase from 22 to 23. So that's something that I want to point out, and that's something that we can celebrate. Now, they just introduced the House Bill 1416 that is meant to clean up 4545, so I'll be very curious to see what our numbers look like next year. So in looking at our data and looking at it very closely and discussing it with principals, what we discovered is that we're doing a good job with the students who did not pass the year before and getting them over that passing rate this year. Where we are missing the mark and where we are focusing this year is on our advanced learners. So you pull the string from the top, right? And that's something that during the shutdown in 2020 and just the subsequent years from that, we we pulled back a little bit with our GT offerings, with our course offerings for advanced learners, because there was such a gap between where they were and where we wanted them to be. And so a lot of our students who had previously been in GT or had been in advanced courses, they needed help with just the basic grade level skills. So this year, knowing that and seeing the data, some things that we have put in place is that we've extended the time for GT pullout in elementary school. So they have a full hour every day, which I've been kind of checking around, and there's not another district that I have found that has that much pullout time. During that time, we're gonna focus on enrichment and extension in all the different subject areas. There's additional course that is being provided at the junior high to provide additional enrichment, and there are additional options to earn college credit at the high school for on-ramps courses. This is HB3. This is something I'm required to present to you annually. These are the goals that were adopted by the board in 2020. It was based on the 18-19 data. We took it and then we increased it. Now last year we saw a pretty nice increase, so 30% to 48%. The red box is where we were in the spring. So this is overall at the district level. This is at Patterson. This is Delaney. And so the goal at the top rectangular box is based on the performance at that particular campus, and then the KISD is based on the overall district performance. So we do have some highlights at Delaney. We saw an increase in African American, and we saw an increase in our special education. This is math. So at the district level, we saw a decrease. It went down. And then overall, you can see our goal for 22-23 and then our actual for 22-23. There's Patterson, Delaney. And so I know that you want to know our next steps. I know that that's something that's very important. We do have some things in place that I'm going to highlight some bullet points, but in September you're going to hear from the principals, because what's going to work at Delaney is not necessarily going to be the thing that's going to support at the high school, and so it's going to be valuable to hear the campus perspectives. So we are putting an action plan into place. These are just some things overall at the district level that we are supporting. So there's an increased focus on power walks. We are keeping what we started last year, but we didn't start those until the spring, and so we did see significant improvement in that particular case. So an increased focus on power walks. There is a strong correlation between the resources that the teachers are using and the performance of the students in that course. So for example, we pulled the numbers, I'm not sharing that here with you today, but looking at 7th grade math, of all the walkthroughs, that was the highest percentage of times that the students in that class were using the adopted resource than any other classroom that was visited. And so the adopted resources are working. That is what we're seeing. In addition to that, we added today an additional paraprofessional to support emergent bilingual at the elementary level. Our emergent bilingual numbers are increasing rapidly, and they need additional support. And so we did post a paraprofessional position today, so we were looking for somebody amazing. One thing that we didn't do last year is that all of our campuses are offering common assessments, but they did that on their own. This year, they're going to be in a common platform, so we can review them at the district level, we can look overall, we can look between grade levels, and so all of those will be taken online as well. So I think that that'll make a difference so that we can really dig deep. We have implemented high-quality instructional materials, so we have Amplify in elementary school. We have STEM Scopes. We're going to provide some additional support there. STEM Scopes is great. There's data to support the efficacy of that particular platform. We're not seeing the results. And so my question is, are we using it? Are we not using it? Or are we using it, or we're trying to use it, but we don't know how to use it? So we are going to bring in some people from from STEM Scopes to sit with the teachers during PLC and help lesson planning, to help them be more efficient and make sure that they're doing it correctly. So instead of necessarily going in order, and then if you run out of time, just stopping, saying, you do this part, and if you have additional time, you can do these pieces in the middle. And I think that that'll make a big difference in just building the confidence of the teachers and knowing that what they're doing is supporting success. So what you're going to see in September when we come is Where are they now? Where do we want them to be? So it starts out with a comprehensive needs assessment that was completed in the spring with a variety of stakeholders. We have specific goals that are set, and then you'll see a series of strategies, the structures that we'll be putting in place at the different campuses to support that growth. Coming soon. It's under construction. And so that's where we are. What questions do you have?
I think that was a lot of information. And I think it
Was.
was great information, especially the response to what we had requested last year. So thank you for that. And there's so much information you have a mastery of. I'm curious, from what you've seen, where do you anticipate we're gonna fall with our rating?
Magic 8 ball. It's gonna drop.
It is impossible to know for sure because there are 3 different areas where they look at student achievement, they look at student progress, and they look at closing the gaps, which is what I shared with you at the very beginning with the high focus groups. We have our raw data for the student achievement and for the progress. We do not have it for closing the gaps, and that's a very significant portion of the overall rating. In talking with other districts, people are making predictions using the raw data files, doing the best that they can. We're seeing districts overall on average drop 1 grade level. We shall see. Our closing the gaps could pull us up, because it could push us down. That's my honest, transparent answer.
Changed the accountability rating, and they also changed the STAR test, so,
All in the same year.
yeah.
After, well,
And they had our
That's all
emergency
another
like
issue.
typing.
That's never
values, they did it
been done.
right in a 5 years gap because statute said it had to be switched and updated because it was 5 years. Well, what's happened in the last 5 years? A lot of things have happened, especially with COVID, post-COVID, and everything else. And so I really, and the reality is they're not gonna release these until right before they vote on charters. So I just find that correlation to be very amazing. So anyway, the reality is most districts were predicting that they would drop a grade level based off of the new test and the new.
In the discussions that we had with principals, there's not a question. Our staff, they are working hard. They are working long, they are working hard. What we really want to hone in on is efficiency. Are we focusing on the right things? Are we putting our time towards the things that are making the difference? And so we've come a long way, and it's going to take some collaboration, some ongoing discussions, and some tweaks.
This is where I get political. I just find it very ironic that, our commissioner pushes this through and pushes the STAR update plus the new change in accountability through after following all the years that we've had for the past few years. And just, they hold the funding for our school districts because they want vouchers passed. And our ratings now won't be released until right before that vote takes place. So you can make the assumptions for yourself, but I think it's pretty evident what they're doing, so.
So, Dr. Fu, Mr. President, can I address Dr. Fu?
Yes.
My concern is the concern that I always have, and I wrote down a couple of things. One is that we're servicing the unique needs of our EL learners, and I understand that they do have unique needs. But overall, when you look at the MEETS category, our African-American students, overall, math, reading, it's low. It's at 16% and 30%. So in meeting one group's unique needs, I think there needs to be either discussions or when you're doing your power walks, where are your African-American kids sitting in the classroom? Are they all in the back? Are they at the front? Are they on the right? Are they on the left? What's the teacher's hot spot? Is he or she, how are they circulating through the classroom? Same thing with our economically disadvantaged students. If one group is getting special, unique needs, I think the other group needs special and unique needs, especially when their scores are lower. The only area that our African-American students didn't score as bad is in social studies, which is great, but those subgroups,
I agree with
it's
you.
like an 18-point gap. And this is not new, and this is not the first comment from me with regards to this. So it's something systemic. It's not just this school, it's across the board, because this is overall data, not individual campus data. So I know you can't really put that in an action plan, you put the big broad, but when you go to look in your classrooms and you're doing the walks, those are just some things to think about. The fact that that MAP shows a strong correlation, that speaks volumes as well. So when we're looking at our MAP data from these subgroups, does it compare with their STAR scores? And I know STAR is one day in time, but this is what the state has given us to work with. And when this information that anyone can access on the TEA website, it shows up, and it doesn't show up as positive as everything else shows up. So that's my statement that I make every year, because those are the groups that I'm going to continue to monitor.
Because in Canada, we're here for all of our students, not just certain ones. This is a different month, a different presentation, and it doesn't completely address what you're mentioning, but we do have an equity plan in our GT program to identify certain students in subgroups that might have missed it before. It's time for my daughter to take a shower.
I understand.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
Time's important in my house. So sorry. So there's that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we can always do more, and we should do more, and we're working towards that. What else?
Any additional questions for Dr. Good?
I don't have any questions, but I'm looking forward to hearing the campus improvement
That's what I was
plans,
gonna
district
say. I'll
improvement
wait.
plans
Me
for
too.
next
Me too.
month.
Yeah.
Me too.
I'll
We
wait
had
for
a
that.
training on Wednesday to talk about how setting goals and writing strategies and targeting certain populations. So they're going to do a great job. I'm
And I-
very confident in that.
I've heard some good things about how the GD program is running this year and how different it is. It's
Good.
been received, very, very well received.
Good.
Yeah, my junior high kiddo was super excited to have the GT stuff at the junior high, so.
Good. I'm happy to hear that.
All right, thank you, Dr. Booth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Let's now move over to Section 8, Business Items Required Action. 8A, discuss and consider adoption of 2023-2024 budget. Mr. G.
Well, we had the budget workshop last meeting. Mr. Adams is on his way down here. I'll let him go through the data, but the reality is it pretty much was set at the last meeting, and we put it out in the newspaper, the publication that we were supposed to, and all that. Had a public hearing. Now it's just a formality of voting on what we discussed at the last meeting.
Yes, the budget is the same as what we talked about 2 weeks ago. I have nothing to add to that. The more and more people I talk to, everybody's adopting a deficit budget, so, I mean, we're not in a boat all by ourselves, so. Is there any questions?
Concerning what we covered at the last meeting or that you have leading up to this, so.
I don't necessarily have a question, I just have a comment. I think it was really helpful that we did it the way that we did it, where we were able to do it prior to this meeting, because since that meeting, I have gotten multiple phone calls asking about it, and I was able to refer them to the last meeting and the video and that public hearing. So I think that was the spirit of the way, and I think that was helpful, because even sometimes, maybe when people are not here, they are watching, they are inquiring, and so that was great to be able to reference that and not doing it all in the same time frame. So I think that was great.
I will second that emotion. I thought that was great as well.
I'll give you kudos. I was not here at that last meeting, so I got to watch the meeting on YouTube, and I was able to follow it.
Good.
From over there, so it was good.
Any additional questions regarding that? All right, then I shall entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve and or adopt the 2023 to 2024 proposed budget as presented.
Second.
So that was, motion was made by Ms. Villagomez, and I'm gonna say that Mr. Glovier made it in just in time for the second there.
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sound aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that budget passes unanimously.
And now,
And we'll now go to section 8B, discuss and consider the adoption of the tax rate by resolution.
and as we basically
Also-
went over, we really don't set the tax rate, the state really sets it, so there's not a whole lot of room. We have been compressed, and they continue to compress us, and so it is what it is, and so that's what we're dealing with. We have lowered taxes yet again, but, you know, we get accused, you know, quite often that it's the values that are doing it, it's not us, so.
Yep.
Make sure you know people understand that, so, yeah.
So just for those who may have missed last meeting online and gonna see this one.
And what's the tax rate?
The total combined tax rate will be 1.1375. Be 75.75 for the maintenance and operations rate, and 38 cents for the interest and sinking rate.
Which is also important to mention that that is lower than it was last
Yes.
year.
Yep.
9 cents.
9 cents.
9 cents lower than it was last year, even with our bond,
Even with the bond.
even with the bond.
Even with the bond.
Awesome. Okay.
So, Mr. President, I'd move to adopt a resolution setting the tax rate.
I'll second.
On that, motion was made by Mr. Glover and second by Ms. Cruz Perez.
Yes, sir.
All in favor of adopting the tax rate, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion passes unanimously as well. Okay, we now go to 8C, discuss and consider approval of upgrades to the HVAC thermostat and software.
I'll let Ms. Mode lead you through this one.
Good evening, y'all. You know, if I'm here, it's usually about money. We have a great opportunity. I know most of you were not on the board when we adopted the ideal impact controls, centralized controls for the district. It has been a great money saver for us overall. I did include all that information as far as our billing and stuff is on our website. It's a mandatory reporting, but I gave you just the last snapshot so you can see the money savings that Ideal Impact has already gotten us through our campus optimizer system. The main thing I'm here to ask for today is we've done really well with our Honeywell system, the thermostats, but with any program, as the years go on, kind of think of your iPhone, the camera gets better every model. We're asking that we update these thermostats so we have more controls on them. For my staff, the biggest cost savings for us, should we do this, is time. We only have 2 HVAC techs, and if you look on here, you can see we have 426 units they're trying to maintain. Right now, we've got everybody set at a threshold, occupied and unoccupied, but anytime we have to change from that, we have to send somebody to that thermostat to physically program it. The Pelican will allow us to do it from a dashboard instead of sending a person over there. The other big benefit to the Pelican is it's a mesh system, and I have Scott Kasuth, I always say his name wrong, Kasuth, here to help us on that, but the mesh network will give us much better reliability as far as our Wi-Fi is concerned. Right now, it's on a standalone Wi-Fi. I have an example of where I have a work order where our guys had to go twice. You know, it fell off the Wi-Fi. We go fix the Wi-Fi, and then we find out we're in a hotspot area that we do need to lower it a little bit. Then we have to send the guys back to reprogram it. So having this network will keep, the thermostat, especially in those far-reaching areas, DEAP, those little off buildings and stuff, those are the ones that tend to fall off. The press box, this building. If we have that mesh system, it's more like it's tied in instead of tied to that Wi-Fi. So that's the biggest benefits for me. There's all kinds of backstory stuff that makes this a wonderful program, but those are the biggest highlights that I'm asking for this upgrade. And it will be a portion of the HVAC portion of the bond, so this will not come out of general fund. It will come through our bond money on here. Have any questions?
So I'm not an HVAC tech nor an engineer, okay? But will this impact how our teachers, the control the teachers have in their classrooms? Will all that now have to come through?
Not really. I know that they don't like our threshold. The threshold is 73 to 71, and I'll be candidly honest with you right now, with it being 110, we are really struggling. The fact that we passed the bond to do some upgrades on our HVAC, we definitely got some units that really need to be replaced. Most of the ones at the high school are the original units that were on the building when it opened in 1999. So when you get 110 degrees and you've got a 20-year-old unit, it struggles along. But those thresholds have created such an impact, and I know people I don't like it. My office on any days, it sits to the western sun. It's 80 degrees in my office, and it just is an environment, but I also know that the unit that's above my head has been there since 1997. So if we got a newer unit, I think that would help that situation too. But we still, and we do, I'll give you an example. We have a teacher over at Arthur that has just gone through chemo, and she cannot get hot because it'll affect her side effects from the chemo. So we've gone in, and in those particular areas, we have lowered those points for her so she doesn't get. So we do review those. I know we had some classrooms that we have lowered the threshold because they have 2 exposures. They got windows on both sides and they're getting hit that way. So we do try to accommodate. It's kind of one of those systems, somebody's always melting, and then I got someone like Miss Bruce who's always wrapped in a blanket, so, and that's just kind of where we're at.
It's cold in here.
You need to set up shop in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cold.
And see, it's 73 degrees in here, and then I have other people that go, oh, it's 73.
Yeah.
So I'm dying, I'm
Yeah,
hot.
everyone's
Yeah,
got different.
so it's kind of one of those.
I will say, just to clarify, that the teachers will not have more control over the thermostats.
No.
That is not what the intent is here. The purpose is to save the money that we've been saving, and being able to shut off the units whenever they don't need to be in use, and making sure that that's happening, and not that they're running all the way through the summer when nobody's even in the building. Those
And
are the kind of things that we put it in place for in the first place. You can see the savings. It's not always comfortable for everyone, but, the reality is we have the thresholds and we have the time limits. I sit in my office until 6 o'clock at night, and I have to go over and hit mine because it starts.
5 o'clock
kicking
is off.
5 o'clock is off, and so I have to go over there and adjust it, manually. So that's just part of what we do, so.
One of the key points that I highlighted and I forgot to mention, one of the safety and security enhancements on this one, which we do not have with Honeywell right now, is if we should ever have like a chemical spill or something like that, we will be able to go in on this dashboard and shut our units off, so it's not pulling in that outside air. So that is a safety and security component of this that we do not have in our current system.
So you can manually shut it down without having to physically go to the building?
We can do
You
it through the
shut it all down
dashboard.
from a phone, as opposed to having to
Yeah.
go into each thermostat and shut it off and,
So on holidays, when normally on Mondays we're open,
Mhm.
this Monday we're not?
Well, we already have that plugged
Oh,
in.
okay.
We take that school calendar every year and plug all that in there. There's daytime occupancy, and then there's after-hour occupancy, and then we have like athletics. They go in and put a whole different schedule in, because like this building, we have to go in and schedule air for here because most nights there's nobody in here, so it doesn't make sense to have it be 73, but it goes back up to like 85.
Will this system give us a report on unneeded maintenance, or maybe a component's going bad and maybe someone needs to
It
come
will
out and look?
retain the information for 2 years, and our techs will be able to see that from their phone. So when they go in to look at a unit, they can pull that unit up on their phone and see what's been happening on that unit on there. And the system we currently have does not have that feature either. It's an improvement. It's an upgrade to the system we currently have. Mhm.
And we did say it would be coming out of the bond money.
Yes, ma'am.
So I read it and I
Uh-huh.
understand the benefits as described. It was really well laid out what the benefits would be, not even just in cost, but in labor and all that kind of stuff. So I get that. I also get, as was just mentioned again, it will come out of the bond money that was passed. My clarifying question is, I know in the bond, we could not necessarily line item everything that we were thinking. There was a section for upgrades to HVAC systems.
Yes.
So when we were thinking about that in the bond, were we thinking about simply replacing the current old units, or was this something that we had front of mind if that section of the bond passed, or is this something in addition that we've decided could be beneficial?
No. We planned for this. It's not additional. When we were doing the HVA upgrades, they approached me about this over a year ago, and I was like, I can't ask right now. Let us see what happens with the bond. So we were considering this a year ago, and it would have been out of general fund at that time. So we've put it off until we could lump it in with the other replacements.
Perfect, thank you.
And the thermostat is a crucial part of the HVAC system, so that's kind of, we just put it all, we lump it all together when we say HVAC, so.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Any additional questions for Ms. Miller?
I do. Mr. Scott is going, because I don't know, can't do your last name.
He says, say it like you're sneezing, Kasoots.
Is going to be our contact person that works with you to.
No, you saw Noah in here.
Okay.
Scott was with us when we originally moved that. He's moved up in his company. And Noah, you know, we have that strange little bug that's floating around that people tend to get. And he's ill today, so he's not here. So Scott came in to fill in for him, just to be here. In case y'all had some technical questions I couldn't answer, I wanted to have them here. So if you had a different question that I wasn't able to answer, they could.
So it's the Pelican system that we're getting?
Basically, up there, that's a Honeywell thermostat. What they're gonna come in and do is replace all 426 of those with a Pelican thermostat. Now, keep in mind, in the thermostat, that's where the ideal impact and the customizer and all that stuff is. That's all the little nitty-gritty engineering in the back end of that we don't control, but that's what that will upgrade.
So when they change out the thermostats, they'll change out the software. The software they'll move the software into the new thermostat so that it's working and correlating and doing what it's supposed to do, so.
So it's hardware and software?
Yes. And Scott, what is the portion that creates the meshing? I don't know that terminology, but it's a little box that they do.
The current system Honeywell is connecting to your access points for Wi-Fi. Sorry, would you like me, I can go to the microphone.
Yeah. Yes, it uses stuff up.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
The current Honeywell connects to your Wi-Fi's access points. So that's where the challenge has been as far as there are other devices that compete for that network. There are areas of the buildings that have less connectivity than others. So that's when there's situations where there needs to be a change where Ms. Eileen and Heather need to send a facilities team member to the actual device itself. With Pelican, this is actually hardwired into the server rooms. There's a gateway that operates on its own network. So it stands apart from the Wi-Fi. So this gateway plugs into the server, so it's as strong as your infrastructure of your server rooms. From there, there's a dedicated mesh network that Pelican connects to, and each device doesn't just connect to the gateway, but they connect to each other too. So they have usually 5, 6 to 7 different points of access that they're getting connectivity from. So that's where the connectivity gets that much better, and where it also just allows your access points and Wi-Fi to serve the school as opposed to the thermostats as well. Does that answer the question?
So I think what jumps out at me is that first of all, we need to do this. And even if it was coming out of general fund, within 8 years, we will have made that money back over 3 times with the cumulative savings guarantee. So, does anybody have any other questions?
Thank you, Mr.
President. Wow.
Wait, I do have one question.
Yes.
How long will it take to install?
Us. I can jump in and say, once we get this executed, if you approve this, we'll be pushing this through next week. We gotta let the budget roll over before we can do that stuff, but they will start working immediately and they should be done mid-October. So it'll be a quick process, because they're gonna do it, my people don't have to.
Thank you.
All right.
No more questions.
Mr. President, I move to approve the funding for the upgrade of HVAC thermostats and software as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Glover and second by Mr. Sarda. Got in there. Great.
Say it before you
We have to start
finish this,
mediating.
'cause,
We
have to start mediating.
All in favor of the motion made, let it be known by the sound aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes unanimously. Awesome. Thank you very much. And we now move to section 8D, discuss and consider approval of the CTE Innovation Course, Blueprint Reading for Manufacturing Applications.
And that's Dr. Dublin.
Good evening. I'm here to seek approval for an innovative course for our CTE welding program, with which we partner with TCC to provide. As you're aware, vocational standards and industry standards are constantly evolving. Now, to earn the welding level 1 certificate, a new course was required. Therefore, TCC added a course to meet that requirement, and now we need to add that course to match with TCC's course. An innovative course or courses offered by TA that's outside the required curriculum that upon school board approval, we can offer to our students. And Blueprint Education Marketing course is the one that most aligns with the course at TCC and with TEACS. And so I stand before you today to ask that approval so that we can ensure our students are in compliance with industry and program of study standards. Any questions?
Oh, I was actually very happy to read because I randomly know about that stuff. It actually applies for many other fields and many other careers in the same kind of industry. So I was pretty excited to see it.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the requested innovative course for welding CTE program of study as presented.
Motion by Ms. Cruz Perez and second by Ms. Villa Gomez.
Thank you.
All in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Yes.
I do not oppose, I abstain from the vote.
Okay, so we have one abstention, and that will be from, Mr. Serta.
Oh,
So that motion passes 6. No dissension, just one abstention. Okay, thank you very much. We now move to section number 9, and that's superintendent's report, so I will now turn it over to Mr. G.
All right. Here we go. All right, so start off with enrollment. So after our first 3 weeks of enrollment, we are sitting at the high school, basically 44 students up from where we were last year. Nobody in JJAP. The junior high, we are roughly 6 students below where we were last year, but I'm going to point out a key factor here. We lost 226 out of the 8th grade that went up to the 9th grade. 201 rolled up from the 7th grade. We had 219 that came in, so we're short some numbers there, but then it's not that big, but it's a change in cohort. And you'll see the same thing at the elementaries where you have a change in your cohort. Delaney, we lost pre-K in kinder, and that same thing at Patterson. So their enrollments are down, but when you look at the early childhood center, we have more children in the early childhood center than we had lost off of those 2 campuses. So we're up in our early childhood enrollments. So overall, we're about 35 students down compared to where we were last year, and we still have students enrolling every day. So we feel like we'll regain those numbers. And then when you look on the far right corner, these are open transfer. We have had 22 open transfers at the high school. Mr. Cagle's knocking it out there. We have 2 at the junior high school. We've had 2 at Delaney and 1 at Patterson for a total of 24, I believe. So, okay. All right. And then our attendance on the next sheet. Our attendance is actually looks fairly good compared to where we were this time, well, at the end of last year. And we know as we go through, attendance becomes a bigger issue, but right now we're sitting at 96, 97, 96, 96, almost 97, and the Arthur, I will say Arthur was hit with several cases of COVID, teachers, staff, and students, so their numbers are at 91.8 right now, so, all right. So that's where we are with attendance and enrollments. Our neighborhoods, we have Magnolia Hills, We have 27 students out of Magnolia Hills, 13 at the high school, 9 at the junior high, 2 at Patterson, 3 at the Early Childhood Center, for a total of 27, like I said, out of Magnolia Hills. New to district, we have it's listed as 4, but a lot of those were in the district previously, and then they just moved to a new address, so some of that doesn't really reflect right. Hogan's Cottages, which is the new ones over by Patterson, we already have students coming out of there. We have 1 at the junior high school, 1 at Patterson. The Oaks, we have nothing. Knights Landing, nothing. The Town, which is the new apartments behind Kroger, we've already got 4 students, 1 at the high school, 2 at the junior high school, 1 at Patterson. Alta Landing, we have 20 students, 7 from at the high school, 3 at the junior high school, 7 at Patterson, and 3 at the Early Childhood Center. And then Hammock Creek, which is right across on Sublet, right across the cemetery, 9 at the high school, 11 at the junior high school, 26 at Delaney, 2 at Patterson, 14 at JAA, and for a total of 62 out of Hammock Creek. So overall, new to district is showing 20, I don't know how she calculated that, so. Our total number of students that we've gained out of those neighborhoods is 115. New to district shows it to be 28. There we go. I figured it out. All right.
Ms. G.
I'm sorry, Mr. G, what you just read, those are apartment complexes that?
Some are the townhomes. It's all the
The
new
impact of
new
the new
developments.
developments.
Because one of them was Magnolia Hills.
Impact of the new developments that have come into our district in the last couple of years.
But new to district, out of that big number, was only 22.
Okay.
Out of all of those, I would have thought it would be a lot larger number.
Me too. That's
Well,
what was.
remember, the town is listed as a townhome on here, but I believe it's actually like apartments. And so they're already at 4 and they just started leasing this summer. So those numbers I expect to go up, so. Okay.
All right. Any additional questions regarding that? If not, we will move on to 9B, which is Thompson Superintendent Academy.
Okay, so Tracy loaded in some things into your board packet, where I was accepted into the Thompson Leadership Institute, Superintendent Academy, whatever you want to call it, but the travel itinerary is there on there also. You see the acceptance letter and then the travel dates and all that. Let me look on yours because I want to pull it up. The Visioning Conference, the 6th session, they would like for the board to go, so I'd like to find out how many of you would like to attend that with me. So I need to know, so we can start looking at making travel plans for that. Okay.
Well, we got a little time to wait on that, but it's in February, so I think I'm probably going to be in on that.
I'm on board. When do we need to let you know?
All right, so.
Yep,
So
let's
what do you
do
think
it.
we need to do?
Let's do
The
it.
date on that one is
haven't
the
set a date.
February
February
16th
16th
through
to
the
the
18th.
It's
When
a
do
Friday
you think
through
we
a
need to know
Sunday.
who's going to go?
So we do not
I'd
need to
say
go to the Puerto Rico field trip,
Probably
though.
before, I'd say probably December, January,
Okay.
kind of there.
So can we just say end of year, maybe?
I'm sorry?
End of year? Okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, yep, absolutely.
And then, this one just kind of popped up because it was a hot item on the news and stuff last week with the heat indexes and everything, with the safety and safety for the students participating in the games. Possibly, the school districts were talking about delaying. We were watching the heat index. We did not have to delay our game because it got to safe levels, but, that's always going to be a consideration as we look at all of our games. If we're at an unsafe heat index level, we will delay those games and push them back, so. All right, and our coaches and our trainers are on top of that. Okay. And then, this one I don't have on there, it's just personnel updates, but I will tell you, we hired a bilingual teacher at Patterson Delaney Elementary to fill the first grade position. The sub that was in there, we moved into a para position to sit there and help give us the support that was mentioned earlier by Dr. Vu. The reality, we hired our CNN, we hired someone to fill that class at the high school. So the only teaching position that we have vacant right now is a special ed position at Patterson. Okay?
Just for one?
Just one. Now, we have 3 para vacancies at the high school, 2 at the junior high school, 1 at Patterson, 1 at Arthur. So paras are still an area that our principals are working very hard to fill. We've talked, about possibly having to look at doing some other things to sit there and try to generate some interest in those jobs, so.
And where are those para opportunities at again?
3 at the high school, 2 at the junior high school, 1 at Patterson, and 1 at Arthur.
Okay.
And then district vacancies, we have a diagnostician. We are currently filling that position with 2 part-time people. One was the one who was in that job last year. She retired, and now she's part-time in it. But we have another part-time person filling that because we can use them to basically make one. So that's how we're getting through it this year until we can find someone to hire for that. And then we have a reading instructional coach and interventionist for the district as well. I just interviewed, along with a committee, 4 people yesterday, and got another one on Friday for Mr. Adams' CFO job. So we're gonna try to get the CFO, a new CFO, Mr. Adams, has decided he is going to retire in December. So, you're gonna see his retirement here in a minute.
Not happy to see you go, just happy with the job you've done.
Yeah. So he said after this last legislative session, he's had enough. His mind is full and he can't deal with these changes that they keep bringing to him all the time. He's just tired of battling them. But, the reality is that we've, had a good run. He told me when I brought him in, he said, "You got 3 to 5 years out of me." We got 5 out of him, so I'll take that, we'll go from there. But he's gonna stay on through December, but we're gonna try to bring in someone. We've started doing the interviews, like I said, so hopefully we'll have somebody hired in the next couple of weeks, onboard them, and then let Mr. Adams start working with them to get into our finances and everything.
Financial
Yeah,
rules.
all right. And then, I kind of jumped ahead because I think that was under personnel, but
Yeah. It's okay.
while I was talking about personnel, I just went ahead and did it, so.
Okay.
We skipped over 10.
But that's pretty much my report.
Thank you, Mr. G. Any questions for Mr. G before we start talking about the next meeting dates? Okay, then we'll move on to section 10A, which is going to be the upcoming meeting dates for next month.
Okay, so you saw the Thompson schedule. I also have September dates for that, where I've got to go. But there's a thing that Dr. Vu and I are part of, which is a grant from TA that's through Region 11, that Region 11 sought us out to participate in, which is a leadership initiative also. It's called TSL, Texas State Leadership. And then we have, because I have the conflict with the Thompson, I have to go on the 20th and 21st to Houston to go to a training they have. So that takes the 20th off the plate for the board meeting, so we're gonna have to do it on the 26th or 28th, Tuesday or Thursday of the next week. So.
Do we have any other conflicts with the 28th of September?
No, fine.
I have conflict.
Dr. Vu has one, and I'm asking Mr. Payne.
I have something to share that's relevant here. We just got the projections from the state. We're going to get the accountability September 28th or 29th. I don't think I'm going to be prepared to share all of that information because it may be delayed. So I just wanted to let you know because I stood up here and I told you that we'll have it at the September meeting. We will absolutely have the campus improvement plans, but we may not have accountability. They had said mid-September. Mid-September is what we've had up to this point, and they just released 28th, 29th.
So you'll have them, just not be able to present on them, maybe?
Maybe.
Maybe we'll get them that day.
Maybe, yeah. Part of the accountability includes the closing the gaps, and so there's some different plans that go with it. And so that will be delayed, and that's going to impact the ratings as well. So just wanted to let you know.
Thank you.
So,
I think there was someone else on the 28th had conflict, is that correct?
No.
So no one has conflict?
On the 28th?
On 28th September?
I do.
She does?
Yeah, I do. On the 28th, I do.
Okay. So So if 28th's not gonna work, then we're probably looking at going on a Tuesday?
26?
Yeah, so it's
26th?
either the 26th
Was
or,
the 25th an option? Monday?
I think 25th is on a
Monday.
I can't. I can't give you my Mondays. I have a class.
I'm good if you're there.
So 25th is a Monday, 26th is not possible?
26 is good.
Okay.
No.
So we're looking at,
Hold on.
26 is not possible for you?
No.
okay. And what about 19th?
Tuesday
19th?
before.
Tuesday before sounds good.
You won't be here?
Yeah, I won't be available.
I thought you were gonna be gone. Okay. I thought you'd be here for that one.
So
Okay.
maybe the 19th, but you're there the 20th, 21st.
Can we do a Wednesday?
Okay, yeah, I don't think Wednesday's gonna be available for Ms. Moody,
Yes.
so
It
we're,
would be okay?
Wait, that's why I'm pulling up my
Once we have a
calendar, because
quorum,
we
but
have like
not
three
everybody
different
has to be
dates
here,
going
as
on.
long as we have a quorum, depending on.
What day are we on right now? The 20?
right now, we're talking, if Wednesday would be the 27th. Would that be possible for you?
I'm good, yeah.
You're good?
I'm
Okay.
good.
No.
All right. Do we have any conflicts on Monday, the 25th?
Somebody said yes.
I take classes.
can't do
I'll be taking class every Monday for the next
Okay.
6 weeks.
So,
Just go with the.
Actually, you know what? But my classes are recorded, so I could watch my class afterwards.
oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
You could do that.
I can, yeah.
You're such a.
Oh,
senior.
wait,
Yeah.
no, but that's my first class. Sorry,
can't
sorry,
miss
sorry.
Okay.
Don't miss.
No,
it.
that is my
18th,
first
you're gonna
class.
the
Just
entire
a
week?
Just go with,
Are you going the
No,
entire
it's an
week?
ASL class.
You do the 18th?
Yeah.
You can't do the 18th?
No.
You cannot do the 18th, you're going the entire week.
Whole week.
I'm doing a presentation in San Antonio.
All righty then. Okay, so we are now,
But
Yes.
one person, if the majority of the board can meet.
Yeah.
then 27th is what we're looking at?
Regular meeting?
Yes, for the regular meeting. And we understand that Ms. Moody
or-
will not be able to be there.
or 28th if Maria's the only one.
27th or 28th, oh.
Well, I'm just saying, just because I don't want
Yeah.
to just say, well, we can't, we can go without
I
you, is my
understand,
point.
no.
I don't want to,
And if I can get off, I will, but if not, we have a meeting. at
either the
1.
Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay, so if I'm the person in the middle chair saying, you know, what I recommend, I think consistency is a plus. And since we always meet on Thursdays,
Yes.
I would suggest the 28th.
I can do that.
I can do that.
Understanding
That's
that.
easier for me to,
Or pencil you all in.
Or hurt you. You will not
that's
be.
easier
It will
for
hurt
me
me too, because I take pride in making sure my attendance is up there, but when we change it, like, with such short notice.
Exactly.
So, we're looking at the 28th then. So we will go with the 28th of September.
At 6 PM?
Yes, at
Yes.
6 PM.
Is there a way, Ms. Moody, you were saying that, when would you know if you could take off on the 27th?
When I get home and look at my school calendar, I don't program those things on my phone.
So
I
is
didn't know
there-
we were gonna change the meeting, so I didn't bring my calendar.
Correct.
So,
So
like you
if you
said,
will,
last minute changes,
Well, I'll take, this is what I will
can't
suggest,
do
and if you could communicate to me whether or not that's a day that's okay for you,
okay,
because if everybody can be here, then we'll go ahead and do it on that day.
Okay.
But if we're
I
not
will
able
do
to
that.
do that, then we'll
Yeah,
be
one or
doing
the
it.
other.
Yes.
Very good.
So is
Okay.
everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Okay.
I will let you know as soon as I
All
can.
right. So we're tentatively on the 28th, sorry, 27th, knowing that,
Oh,
Wait,
I'm sorry, tentatively on the 28th,
28th.
understanding in a day or two, you'll get a notification,
Yep.
communication that we might move it to
Move
the
to the
27th.
Okay.
We have a special meeting?
Okay.
Is it a
That's a
special
regular,
No,
meeting?
it's a
that's a
regular
regular.
meeting.
How far in
No,
advance
two.
do we know where the meeting's gonna be to? Yeah, so if we're waiting till 2 days before to change, we can't do that.
No,
No,
we're
he
doing 2
said
days
in
from
the
today.
next 2
Oh, 2
days
days
from
today.
now.
Yeah, we'll probably this afternoon this evening.
Oh, yeah, I misunderstood, sorry.
Yeah, because she said pretty much when she gets home, she can check the schedule, just to know to bring it, because we didn't know there might be a change.
Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Is there supposed to be a special meeting this next month?
Well, we did talk about doing special meetings.
I just have a slot here for it. I
Okay.
just need to know. If it's not something we need to do,
I think to go over the training, right?
I'll go over the training.
And what the priorities were for each of us, and
that is.
takeaways and
That's
what
a
we
good
wanted
point.
to kind of do moving
Wait, what?
forward.
So how can we, let's take a look at a special meeting date possible?
I thought we were talking about that tonight.
The training that we all went to,
Are we going to,
we wanted to have a special meeting to kind of bring back the ideas of what the board felt like we needed to implement from that training. Because we were all very excited, had lots of ideas, but we just haven't had a time to meet.
I know, I thought it was on
Oh,
the
no,
agenda
no,
for
not
tonight.
SLI.
It's under
It's on
board
It's
discussion.
on the discussion for tonight.
It's
discussion,
B.
the next item, or 2 items now.
Are you talking about SLI or are you talking about the other training?
I'm talking about SLI.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's on the
That's
board
It's on
for
the
tonight.
today's
So we're gonna do a
agenda.
recap discussion, so I thought, at this point, I don't see any reason to have a special meeting if we're gonna go and discuss SLI next.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Okay, I guess when I read that, I didn't understand any instructions on like, bring your top 3, bring your top 5. That was the purpose of that item right there. Because all other discussions we'd had about it would be, let's have a separate special meeting, and each of us then get some instructions on bring 3 or 4, or whatever your top things were, and when we would put them together, see what we kind of meshed together as to a guidance. So I've seen that on there as a recap, but I guess I didn't understand the instructions were to come with your notes and.
That's how yeah, because it says session recap discussion, so that's what I thought we were doing tonight. That's why I was wondering what a special meeting was for.
Well, I'm with Dr. Douglas. I didn't read that into that either. So we can proceed, but that's not how I understood it. I'll listen to
Do
what
we have
everybody
a
else
need
said.
for a special meeting?
well, at this point, I don't know, there's no need to put one on there, I think we're gonna have a discussion. If we think it's still needed after we have this discussion, then we can always go back and check the availability of everybody, see if we can do one. Let's see how it ends, let's see how tonight ends, okay? All right, so we have upcoming meeting dates that we know of, that's good. So we will now go to section 10B, which is the SLI 2023 session recap discussion. So when we went to SLI, I know that we all attended a lot of different classes, a lot of different topics. And we had, at that time, talked about sharing that information with everyone else, so that we might be able to get some of the knowledge that we gathered there to share with everybody else. Okay. And from the discussion, I feel that a couple of the people may have a little more they might want to share than they're ready to share today. Am I correct?
Yes, because for me personally, I thought it was very important training, and I think we all came back very excited with things that were really resonated with us. But again, just reading that as an ABC, I didn't read that to bring your notes, have given any thought to your top 3, 4 things that you want to kind of discuss and see moving forward. So I'm a little disappointed because it was very important, and I thought, I've talked about it multiple times, having a special session. I know that when we talked about that, we said we couldn't do the special session yet because we've already had 2 meetings per month up to this point. So again, when I'm reading that, I'm not reading that as, oh, tonight's the night, bring your notes.
I'm the one that, same thing, I've been wanting to hear what other people, so I'm the one that requested that it get added to the agenda since we weren't having a special meeting, so I had the knowledge of it being on there, so I brought mine, but if no one else did, then.
Mr.
You brought
President,
it?
perhaps we
I
should
did.
entertain
I brought mine.
a motion to postpone this to the next regular meeting.
So we have 2, and so I think we have 3 options here. One
you
is
guys-
to let
did
those
you
that,
bring it? Oh.
one would be to let those that brought their information, to go ahead and share it with the board.
Who brought their information?
Well, hold up, I need a point of order. There's a motion on the table made by Mr. Glovier. So if that motion is on the table, either we're gonna get a second or not before we move on. That's Robert's Rules of Order, so his motion, we just can't
I was
slide
just
by it.
suggesting,
Objection
Did you
sustained?
make
I was
a-
just suggesting perhaps we should have a motion.
Oh,
to-
okay.
To
All right.
postpone definitely to the next regular meeting.
Okay, because I heard I make a motion.
thank you.
But, okay, so,
I make a motion that we postpone until a future date to have this discussion, this recap regarding the Summer Leadership Institute.
I second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Ms. Douglas to postpone this discussion until a later date. And that has been seconded by Ms. Moody, that we postpone until a future date.
Could we set a date?
Well, if this motion passes, then we will set a date. So, all in favor of that motion, let it be known by the sound aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So postponement passes. Next point would be, when are we gonna have this? So we have dates that we have talked about for a special meeting that we already rejected, but can we have one that we haven't talked about yet?
Week of the
Okay, so I
11th
have
through the
another point of
15th.
order. I'm sorry. When did, we talked about in one of these meetings having special meetings. So when was the decision made we were not gonna have a special meeting?
About 5 minutes.
And I know I missed, no. It was more than just 5 minutes ago. I know I missed a meeting, and it could have been discussed then. We went through a whole list of, we're gonna have to meet twice a month during August and September to address this.
No, I was saying 5 minutes ago, because I asked and we said, well, we're not gonna have a special meeting.
Ms. Secretary, you said you had something down about a special meeting?
I just have a line item here that says upcoming meeting dates and times, special meeting date, and there was something there to put. I asked about it, and we said, well, if we're not gonna do it, let's just do the regular meeting on the 28th and call it there.
Okay, so I will take us back to that point that was listed on there, and that goes concurrent with what I was just saying. Let's take a look and see what date would be available for a special meeting in the month of September.
Given that we all had so much difficulty to figure something out for September, can we push that for our first week of October?
Well, that would be a special meeting, so that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Also,
thank you.
given that we're not gonna be discussing the accountability rating, could we not
Yes.
just put it in the regular meeting?
Or could we put it in the regular meeting since we're not gonna have ratings?
It's very unlikely, but if it's here,
I mean, if it comes out on the 28th, I don't think we're able to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because
I don't think it'd be fair on you.
you can't post it into the board book 3 days before.
We can always post it as a potential
Okay.
agenda item, and we can take it off if we don't have the information, so.
So why don't we do that for our next meeting?
It's gonna be
Okay.
on the website publicly through 29th, so it's not gonna be a secret, okay?
Yeah.
If you're just wanting the information, it won't be a secret, it's just breaking it down and showing you where the scores came from, and
Yeah.
that's the part that's gonna take a little bit more time.
And that presentation will take time.
It will.
So if we're not doing that, I think let's just do it at the next regular meeting.
Yeah.
Ms. Villagomez, do you have like maybe a suggested structure you think that we should, how we should do that? Everybody have one topic
No,
that they're
I just was really antsy and wanting to hear people's session stuff, and since it wasn't happening, I just sent an email, said, can we add this to the agenda? That was my only motive, so I typed up all my stuff, but I think as long as we get a chance to do it, I don't know that it needs, because I was thinking we would do it tonight, so I don't think it has to be a special meeting. I think if everyone just typed up literally just a one-page highlights. I don't think we need to go in-depth for all the 12 meetings
Yeah.
we attended.
So why don't everybody just pick one, your favorite, one you felt was most
There we
impactful?
go.
Okay, and bring that for our next meeting?
Well, I mean,
I don't know, one's kind
or
of
just
hard.
like one, because I chose one, I mean, if you just do highlights of each, I think
Well,
that's
I got just do
fine.
one out of everything I went to. So many different topics.
Yes,
I
Mr.
do one
It was very
pager.
different.
Yeah, just do a one-pager.
Oh, I
like
thought you were
that's-
saying one, like one topic, like.
Well, that's
one
what
section.
Mr. Owens
Oh,
threw out there, but I'm saying I don't want to do just one, because I had a couple that I thought were great.
Can we limit ourselves to 5 minutes each?
Oh, no.
no.
Can I ask a question about the
Stand up there.
intent? Because I think if the intent is to just share what was impactful for us, but in my vision of it, would be not that we would just easier to share what was impactful, but that we would then put all those things together and decide which ones of those things we wanted as a board to kind of see the district move forward with. You know, i.e., we've talked about, a schedule or something, of all the different activities in the district. And then if all of us kind of said, oh, that was pretty impactful for me and I really like that highlight, is that something that at the board we would decide we would try to implement? So if it's just to highlight what we thought was interesting, I think that could be just during a regular meeting. But if there's more of a discussion of like, the three of us said this, the three of us said that, and we want to try to implement that, that might take more time. And I think that's why my thought always was that it would be more of a discussion at a special meeting.
Point, well, nice point. I would suggest this. I think that maybe that this doesn't have to be a one swoop
I was thinking
finality, but
share
why don't we
and then-
start with the sharing
Yeah.
at next meeting?
That's what I was thinking.
And we'll talk about how long we're gonna give each other a little bit later, because we'll all think about that. Maybe email me a suggested time, and we'll take a look at what time frame, if somebody wants to make one, you know, because we certainly don't wanna be here until 1 o'clock. Sherry,
no.
but I'll bring a one-pager. How about that?
I
So-
saw you with a whole
How
presentation
about a
right
one-pager
there.
from everybody? How about that?
A
One
one-pager.
pager of your own topic.
Okay, Times New
Okay.
Roman, 12 point.
And then I have one other question or point.
Yes.
Because this is so significant for
Single
us, for me at least personally, to hear everybody's insights and thoughts. We're kind of still up a little bit in the air on that September meeting, because if we do it September 28th, at least one member's out. If we end up doing it on September 27th, that everybody's here. So can we make sure, I would hate for any of us to miss that meeting.
If I'm not here, I'll submit my information.
You missing this Wednesday meeting, is that because of time for
She doesn't
job
have her.
constraint getting here on time at 6 o'clock?
No, I have a previously, we have an activity.
Okay.
No.
But she will know later.
Yeah, I'll go,
Yeah.
I will look at my calendar as soon as I get home.
Okay, we'll know that, and
Yes, we have family nights, like everybody else.
I understand your commitment. Okay, so we'll work to make this happen.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
We'll work to make this happen. All right, so thank you for the discussion regarding section 10B. And now to move to 10C, discussion on policy, CW local naming facilities. I guess I'm gonna kick that to Mr. G.
Well, I mean, I sent it out, or put it out at the last meeting, and I only received feedback from Mr. Serta on that, so he typed up his stuff, it's included into your, packet, sorry, and, his suggestions and his ideas. So from there, I think it's y'all just hashing out what you feel like needs to be in it. So he gave you several sample ones before to base that off of, and now we just need your feedback, what you feel like you want in the policy, so we can send it to KISD, get it put in policy, and bring it back for a vote, so.
I read what Mr. Serta had submitted. I like it.
I even sent you the update where I just wrote a policy out, and we can use that as a draft, add, remove, I'm not opposed. So in addition to what is in the board book, I think I sent Mr. Owen then.
Oh, I thought you sent it to everybody.
I did not send it to her, I just sent it.
Okay.
I think the ones that you sent were in here, but I thought there was another sheet that.
I sent a second email
Yeah.
to the two of you that actually
I
has a
thought that was
written
in here.
policy that
I apologize, it's not.
No, that was not it.
The
It's a
first
summary
one-
basically of all of them, right? Putting them all together, combining them, yeah,
Correct.
all right, so.
The first one.
The
That's
first
not
one
in
is
here.
just the ideas. The second one was actually a written document of incorporating all the ideas together versus just thoughts.
Versus picking
Uh-huh.
one of the
Right.
7 samples. of
Because
content.
we don't have that, how about if I just send it out tomorrow, and we
Yes, sir.
send that out to all of you, and then you can look at it. Whatever ideas you have, send it back, and then we'll send it to KISD and let them put something together.
Sure.
That work for everybody?
That works.
So we can-
Agreed.
Do we have to vote on this?
Huh?
Do we have to vote, because
You
it's
will
gonna be
eventually, this is not an
policy?
action item.
No,
so-
no, I know it's not an action item tonight, but after we hash it out, then we have to vote?
Next
Because
meeting.
it's going to be policy, and
Well,
we're
when it
ready to
comes back
vote
from
by the
policy-
next
when it comes back from
meeting?
TASB, you'll look at the TASB
Okay.
suggestions, and then you
Then
will
we
vote on
Adopt
that.
that.
Okay.
All right, to make it policy.
So we're looking to vote on this possibly at our next meeting.
Yes.
Tracy.
If we hear
When
from
will we hash-
TASB,
when will
if
we
we hear
hash it out?
from TASB
If we
prior
hear
to,
back, if not, then we're gonna vote on this in
when we hear from TASB.
October. Because by then we should hear from them, right?
Well, we would hope so.
Okay.
Good, yeah.
We're just trying to put time frame together.
Okay,
So we're getting loose with this.
all right.
Thank you, Mr. Serta, for putting that together.
Thank you,
Yes,
yes.
thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you very
Serta.
much.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move to section 11. Back to Mr. G again for resignations and
So,
retirements.
Basically, you have the list of resignation retirees, and the new hires that we have. I kind of went through the personnel list already. I kind of jumped ahead with that. We can combine the two. I do want to talk about a personnel issue whenever we go into closed session. So as we go into closed session for safety and security, if you'll also put us in closed session for personnel as well. All right. Other than that, I think we're ready to roll in there.
All right. Any additional questions for Mr. G regarding that? Okay, so at this time, we go to the closed session. Okay, so we'll now go into closed session. Time is 8:04 p.m. Closed session per Texas Governance Code 551. 551.076 and section 551.074 for personnel matters. Okay, so
Can we take a?
we will take a 5-minute break and we'll come back at 8:10.
10.